Hello and welcome to We the People. After Poonawalla, who strangled his girlfriend, chopped her body into 35 parts, a polygraph test is expected to be completed on him on Monday. His narco test is likely to be held on the 5th of December. On Saturday, a Delhi court sent After Poonawalla to judicial custody for 13 days. Through all these tests, the police are trying to find answers that fill the gaps in this horrendous murder. But there's one question that people keep asking. This horrific murder of a young, bright, smart woman by her partner, a man she was in love with, has led many to ask that age-old question. Why didn't she leave him? Why do women suffer intimate partner violence? Educated women, professionally qualified women, women from middle and upper middle class families, good-looking, supposedly empowered women. Why does one keep camouflaging years of toxicity and abuse? Why do women suffer intimate partner violence? Well, we have joining us on We the People tonight, we have Kuldeep Kaur, sister of Mandeep Kaur, who died by suicide in New York after years of harassment and domestic violence at the hands of her husband. We have Srimoy Piyukindu, author, columnist on gender and sexuality, author of Status Single, also the founder and creator of India's first and only community for urban single women. We have Basha Devi, Nirbhaya's mother, joining us again on We the People. Thank you, ma'am, for your time. Shreya Singhal, advocate, and Pranjal Asha, photographer and filmmaker. First, I want to go across to Srimoy Kindu. Srimoy, you've written about this, and you said that as you see Shraddha's half smile, you're transported back to your own trajectory, and you talk about your first real relationship. Why do you see similarities?
You know, Sarah, I see similarities because I see the vulnerabilities. I see similarities because I see the way in which her friends are now speaking out. And almost, you know, I can see that same tone. You know, why did she take it? You started your show with that very, very seething line. You know, whenever there is a case of sexual abuse, whenever there is a case of domestic violence, whenever there is a case of intimate partner abuse, be it financial abuse as well, be it emotional abuse, the first line of attack is always, why did she take it? Why didn't she leave? Why didn't she just say something? Why didn't she go and lodge an FIR? What we don't understand is that our conditioning as, you know, Indian women is to always compromise. We've seen in our homes sometimes our fathers who we look up to and venerate, and you know, there's always this thing that we want a partner like our father. But so many women in my community talk about the shoddy way in which they've seen their fathers treat their mothers. Passive aggressive behavior, slamming of the door, saying abhi mujhe tumse baat nahi karna hai, pushing a frail woman, kind of humiliating her, physically shaming her. So, you know, abuse is not always physical. It starts off with a lot of emotional suppression. It starts off with, you know, the slow corrosion of a woman's confidence and self-respect.
Yeah.
And, you know, as women...
When you say confidence and self-respect, you're also embarrassed in a sense. I ask you this because, again, when we say, why didn't she just walk off? Why didn't she tell somebody? You talk about, and you've written about, lying to your motley crew of women friends at Jadavpur University, your alma mater, about how you had hurt your eye, and then even when your parents asked you out of concern, you lied to them also. Yeah, I did, because you know, the first time when my first boyfriend, when he was abusive, it took me by surprise. It was just a regular argument, and I said no to something, and he flew off into a rage and took my head and banged it into his steering wheel. And this was, you know, I was in a state of shock. And the next thing he would do, which a lot of men who are abusive do, you know, they have this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of personality, was the next thing he landed up in front of my college, you know, teary-eyed, saying, I'm really sorry, I was stressed at work, you know, there's a lot of work pressure, even my family, my mother doesn't approve of this relationship, I'm under a lot of stress, you know, so on and so forth. And when it continued, Sarah, you know, there was a day when he had twisted my arm. I still remember this, you know, and I was late for a class and I kept telling him, I don't want to talk to you. It's over. I'm going. And he took my arm and he just twisted it. You know, you're looking at this Srimoy now and you're probably, all of you watching are thinking, even she went through it? Like, was she crazy? Why did she take it? And I remember when I went to class,
there was a bit of a, like a black and blue kind of spot. And my best friend in college, she said, "What's this again? You had this about a month back. You had, you said you've hurt your hip because I was pushed." And I lied to them, exactly what I've written, I lied to them. And at that time, of course, I was not using a concealer and we didn't have access to so much of makeup. But I remember just my loose Lakme compact powder, putting it and always pretending that my boyfriend was perfect. Because, getting a boyfriend in the first place is like winning a lottery ticket for Indian women. There's so much of pressure. I started losing weight in college, Sarah. I was telling you this. And the first question was, so who's the guy that you've been able to hook? Ours was a college where we had, girls from the arts department inevitably fell in love with boys in engineering and then tied the knot soon after graduation, went abroad with these successful IT type of men. And the question is, oh, you don't have a boyfriend? Fir tere sundarta ka kya fayda? What is the point of losing weight? Everything is for an external audience. And so I love it. I hate it because.
But I want to, Shima, I want to pick up on this other aspect that you touched upon, confidence. What it does to your confidence, because you're clearly a very confident, strong person, and you're right. People are wondering. I mean, how? Why would you stand for this? Pranjal also joins us. Pranjal, you have written openly about being abused by your former partner. This was in May 2021, again in the middle of the pandemic. A very difficult time emotionally for all of us, and we know that Shraddha also had to go through all of this during a pandemic, during a lockdown, where it would have been even harder for her to find someone to talk to. You can't just go get a coffee with a friend. So really horrific. But you've spoken about suffering intimate partner violence, and you say you see the signs. There are patterns of abuse and toxic relationships, and where you keep giving them endless chances. Right? Because people are always asking, Shraddha, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she leave? And her friends have talked about how she wanted to give him another chance.
Right. It's just bizarre that, like, when I heard about this, I could resonate much more with, with what happened with her. And at some point, I also felt that, I mean, in a very twisted sense, I felt like, oh no, like I could have ended up that.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, also on giving chances, it's as simple as the person who's abusing you is abusive, like in the first place, because they know how to do it, like they know their ways, and it's always not as easy as it sounds. Each time I tried to leave my partner, he was very sharp in kind of like winning me back. He would always like call me up, sometimes lying about, his family, his grandmother falling ill, and also it was COVID times.
Yes.
So there was always this, there was always this excuse, which was also very intense, that, oh, somebody in my family could die. And no matter
and you had thought about leaving him. You tried to. When you said you would leave him, it would lead to an anxiety attack, and it became very disturbing. For you were held responsible for what would happen to him. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's it's just that it was very easy in the sense that mental health, when it comes to discussion, it was also on his end to talk about it. And because I understand about it, it was very easy for him to manipulate me further. That, I am suffering and nobody would want to get that tag on themselves that, oh, I left somebody while they were having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. So you keep on going with, whatever is going on with you, because sometimes you just can't stop empathizing.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
I also have Kuldeep Kaur joining us. Kuldeep Kaur is the sister of Mandeep Kaur, a 30-year-old who died on the 4th of August. There was a very painful, disturbing video of her detailing her abuse that went viral. She says it's been 8 years. She cannot take daily beatings. She begs her father for forgiveness, and that, I think, must have been the hardest thing for the family. We have Kuldeep joining us. Kuldeep, thank you for your time. आपके parents, आपकी family को पता था what was happening with your sister?
हाँ जी मैम।
उन्होंने कन्फाइड की थी आपके साथ?
मैम जब उन्होंने डिस्कस किया था, हमें बताया था कि वो ऐसे ऐसे करते हैं, उनके हस्बैंड उन्हें परेशान करते हैं, मारते हैं, घर से निकाल भी देते हैं। तो मेरे पापा ने लास्ट ईयर उन पे केस किया था उसके हस्बैंड पे, जो कि उन्हें 6 मंथ अलग अलग किया गया था। बट उसमें भी रंजोद चोरी मिलता था पुलिस की निगरानी से मेरी सिस्टर को, और अपनी बातों में फिर ले आया। उसके इन लॉज सभी अपनी बातों में ले आए कि एक बार केस वापस ले लो, नेक्स्ट टाइम ये ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं करेगा। बट उसकी जैसे कि अभी केस फिनिश हुआ था जून के एंड में, तो 1 अगस्त में मेरी सिस्टर की डेथ हुई है। न्यूयॉर्क की 1 अगस्त और इंडिया की 2 अगस्त।
नहीं, और वो वापस क्यों गई? उनके 2 बच्चे थे, 2 बेटियां।
क्योंकि मेरी रीजन था, क्योंकि 2 बेटियां थी और वो बहुत ज्यादा समाज को लेके बहुत ज्यादा सोचते थे कि मैं 2 बेटियां हैं, मैं कहाँ जाऊंगी, कल मेरी बेटियां बड़ी होंगी तो वो मेरे से पूछेंगी हमारे पापा कहाँ हैं, तो मैं क्या बोलूंगी।
So of course it's much harder for women who have children. Imagine, I mean, Shraddha's case would have been much worse if she had children, and that's why sometimes women don't leave. And you have that horrific video where you have her crying, and she shows a video where she's getting beaten, and the children are watching, and they're saying, "Papa, please stop beating our mom." Kuldeep ji, बच्चे कहाँ पे हैं अब? What happened to the two daughters?
मैम, हमें 4 मंथ कंप्लीट होने वाले हैं, हमें बच्चों का कुछ भी नहीं पता, क्योंकि हमारी 4 मंथ से लास्ट बच्चों से बात ही नहीं हो रही, बात ही नहीं करवाई जा रही हमारा बच्चों के साथ कोई कांटेक्ट है ही नहीं।
Gosh, Shreya Shringal, please come in over here. You know, Shreya, you work with lots of women who come to you for help, for legal help, and the trickiest thing about being in an abusive relationship is that you never realize they're being abused until one starts to share it.
Yeah. You know, abuse, because it's not just physical, it's sexual, it's economic, it's psychological. And there are a lot of times this abuse can be so intense that there are no physical scars. And the physical aspect ends up being an escalation of that psychological and mental and emotional abuse. And, you know, it becomes so much harder because even when a woman does confide or takes that step to tell someone, to be able to express what has been happening to her in the safest part of her home, the 4 corners of her home.
Yeah.
The answer usually is, adjust kar lo, dekh lo, he'll correct himself, he'll fix himself.
So when they come to you, are they looking to share? Are they looking for finality? Are they looking to scare him? Are they just looking for a way out?
So I think to a large extent, you know, they come to assert, to also find out what their rights are, because women don't know.
What are the rights a woman has? Whether you're in a marriage, whether you're in a live-in relationship, whether you're in a intimate relationship, what are our rights?
So, of course, you can always, for any kind of physical and sexual abuse, you can always file police complaints irrespective of your marital status.
Yes.
And again, irrespective of your marital status, you can seek, you can go to the court under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, where you can seek protection orders of a roof over your head, maintenance orders. If there are children, protection of the custody of the children with you, with the wife, the aggrieved person, and various other restraining orders, such as, you know, no communication, or the respondent or the husband or the partner should not renounce his rights in the family property, because that's what happens. Then it becomes a balancing act of, I will squeeze the purse strings and kind of compel you to settle. And it's over much support, both financial and emotional support, a woman has to be able to fight that. So you are trying to even the playing field in court so that you can come to come to the table to try to settle, because at the end of the day, how long will a litigation go on when you have small children? You don't want to spend the rest of your life being stuck in an abusive relationship you may have gotten out physically, but you're still stuck because you're going to court.
Yeah.
So you want your finality to be able to move on, and that's where, you know, you want a level playing field that you can at least protect your rights, protect the rights of your children, and be able to bid him goodbye for good.
Yeah. Shrimoy, you actually said that you basically changed cities. You ran away. You didn't, despite being as strong, despite having the support of your family, you didn't choose to take this up with the police. You just left, and you tried to put as much space as you could between him and you. But we don't know what happened to him. We don't know if he went on to meet somebody else. We don't know if he was ever held accountable, and if he continues to find new victims.
Yes, Sarah, I was also only 21 years old. So, there was no question of me going to the police. Like I said that, at that time, to be very honest, what was our vocabulary of domestic abuse?
Yeah.
Today there's much more awareness. It's a bit like mental health, right?
Yeah.
And we all know that, we celebrate days like, International Day of the Girl Child, or say Mental Health Awareness Day, there's Suicide Prevention Day. But back in the time, there was nothing. And like I said, in a middle class milieu, the fact that you found a boyfriend who ticks all the boxes, right? He's Brahmin, he's the only son, he's Bengali, he has a car, he has a job, he has a house in South Kolkata. So you feel like, as I told you, because everybody is gunning for marriage. See, that's the thing. Yeah. That in India, we build up ourselves for failure. Because our thing is that finally we found a man. So by hook or by crook, we have to keep him. And, 1 out of 3 women, Sarah, you would know this, suffer from intimate partner violence or abuse. But just 1 out of every 10 women actually report it.
Yeah.
So in my case, I did what a 21-year-old girl, could do. That is, I had a chance to go abroad and do a PhD. I was a brilliant student, never stood second really. But I thought that, I got this job as a journalist in the national capital, and that was the best way to run away from him. And let me tell you, it didn't stop because, men like this, they almost smell blood. They're also stalkers. They're extremely manipulative. Like the lady was mentioning that it's actually a psychological warfare. It's not so simple like, just getting a slap and you go to the police and there's a case and it gets over. It's like a mind game. So he found my number from somewhere. I had a cell phone by then. I remember one day I was sitting and working, filing a copy, and suddenly at, about 11 o'clock in the night, he calls and he starts crying on the phone, and how can you leave me? And I remember once after one of our fights, Sarah, you remember the movie Dar?
Yes.
I think that movie should have been banned. Because what it did was that it normalized
You romanticized
talking.
and normalized it.
It romanticized talking. It romanticized abuse. I mean, it romanticized even,
we have so many films like that. Well, there's so much more. We are all part of this problem, right? Even as we ask, why didn't you just leave? Why don't we stop that? Let me get in Asha Devi ji. She's the mother of Nirbhaya. Asha Devi ji, we know, हमें पता है कि your daughter was not a case of domestic violence. But हम आपसे ये पूछना चाहते हैं, because I know you become a spokesperson, you speak for women. जब आपने सुना about श्रद्धा के बारे में, जो श्रद्धा के साथ क्या हुई है, जो मीडिया कवरेज है उसकी, जैसे आज तक we don't know anything about the accused. हमें श्रद्धा के बारे में सब कुछ पता है. हमें पता है कि श्रद्धा ने माँ बाप से लड़ाई कर घर को छोड़ दिया. वो लिव इन रिलेशनशिप में थी. सब पेरेंट्स को पूछेंगे कि आपकी बेटी लिव इन रिलेशनशिप में कैसे थी, और ये लड़का फ्रॉम अनदर कम्युनिटी, उन्होंने शी इज इन अ रिलेशनशिप विद हिम. बट किसी ने अभी तक नहीं पूछा लड़के के पेरेंट्स को कि आपका बेटा क्यों लिव इन रिलेशनशिप में है. करेक्ट? ये क्या हमारी गलती है एज अ सोसाइटी?
जी, ये हमारी गलती है, और सोसाइटी की भी, और सोच की. क्योंकि कुछ भी होता है, चाहे कितनी भी बर्बरता हो, चाहे जैसे श्रद्धा के साथ हो गया, 35 टुकड़ों में बट गई, लेकिन फिर भी दोष उसी का आएगा, उसी के माँ बाप का दोष होगा कि माँ बाप ने ध्यान नहीं दिया, या माँ बाप से उसने झगड़ा किया. लेकिन बात यहाँ झगड़ा का भी नहीं है, रिलेशनशिप की नहीं है, बात मानसिकता है कि अगर आपको अपना परिवार छोड़ के, जो बच्ची आपके साथ रिलेशनशिप में आई, अपना घर बार छोड़ दिया, पूरा परिवार छोड़ दिया, अब मानसिकता ऐसी कैसे हो सकती है कि नहीं, आप एक तरफ तो कहते हैं कि हम प्यार करते हैं और दूसरे तरफ उसको बकरे की तरह काट दिया। तो मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी खासकर अपनी बच्चियों से और महिलाओं से कि आप अपने आप को पहचानिए और आंख मूंद कर किसी पे भरोसा मत करिए। आप ठीक है, आप प्यार करती हैं, आप दोस्त बनाती हैं, पढ़ाई है, लिखाई है, सब कुछ आपको करना है, तो ये सब चीजें ठीक है, लेकिन आप अपनी लाइफ, अपनी जिंदगी किसी के हाथ में मत सौंपिए। आप इतना आंख खोल के विश्वास मत करिए। आप अपने माँ बाप के संपर्क में रहिए, माँ बाप से नाता मत तोड़िए, क्योंकि अगर शारदा का माँ बाप से लिंक होता तो आज
बट आशा देवी जी, मैंने पढ़ा है कि श्रद्धा के माँ बाप भी ये कह रहे थे कि वो बहुत बदल गई थी, right? That's what happens. A lot of these, when you meet somebody like this, you change yourself.
हिंदी में बोलिए।
हाँ, वही तो मैं कह रही हूँ कि श्रद्धा के माँ बाप ही कह रहे थे कि जब वो बहुत बदल गई थी, जब whenever she met ये लड़का से मिले और फिर वो अपने आप वो बदल गई थी। प्रांजल, I just want to end with you. You had also talked about this, right? Like how you had changed. I think there was, you wanted to be with your mom, but then like you left her alone in the pandemic to be with him. So again, as Shrimoy says, the girl she is telling us about doesn't sound like her. But what happens is that we shrink, we change ourselves, we become gaslighted into thinking that, let's not ask too much, we must have done something wrong, we have no voice left. Your confidence, basically that's what gets taken away.
तो राइट, वो बदल गई थी, ठीक था, लेकिन जो उसके साथ में था उसकी तो मानसिकता नहीं बदली थी, उसके मानसिकता में तो कुछ चल रहा था।
Absolutely, आप सही कह रहे हो मैम।
उसके मानसिकता में चल रहा था, उसके मन में या तो उसके हिसाब से चलो या तो उसके मन में बदला की भावना थी, उसने किया।
पॉइंट ये है कि लड़के नहीं बदलते बट लड़कियां को बदलना पड़ता है एंड द वुमेन डू चेंज। थैंक यू आशा देवी जी।
लड़कियों को भी
प्रांजल, लास्ट वर्ड टू यू।
एक लड़कियों को भी अपने आप को बदलना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि हमारी जिंदगी भी इतनी सस्ती नहीं है कि आप जब चाहो तब इस्तेमाल करो, जब चाहो तब काट के फेंक दो। आज देख रही हैं कि श्रद्धा के बाद कई ऐसे केस आ रही हैं कि बच्चियों को किडनैप कर रहे हैं कि श्रद्धा की तरह काट देंगे। तो यहाँ पे हम यही कहना चाहते हैं कि जिस तरह से हमारी व्यवस्था है, हमारी पुलिस है, हमारी सरकार है, हमारा सिस्टम है, तो इनको इसी तरह सोचना पड़ेगा कि जिस तरह से वो मुजरिम कह रहे हैं कि हम भी काट देंगे। एक वीडियो मैंने पता न झूठा है कि सच्चा, वो कह रहा था कि मैं तो 37 में काट देता। तो इस पे कानून व्यवस्था को सोचना पड़ेगा कि आखिर कब तक आप बेटियों की बलि चढ़ाओगे, कब तक उनको जेल में पालोगे, कब तक रिहा करोगे। अभी 7 तारीख की बात है, 2012 की एक केस हुई थी, निर्भया से पहले 8 महीने हुई थी। उसमें 3 मुजरिमों को इसलिए छोड़ दिया गया कि पुलिस ने सही काम नहीं किया। तो आपने पुलिस को क्या सजा दी, आपने पुलिस को क्या ट्रेनिंग दी कि क्यों नहीं जांच किया? आप ऐसे कैसे छोड़ सकते हैं? कहीं ना कहीं ये समाज में गलत समझा जाता है। कानून का डर आज किसी को नहीं है।
करेक्ट मैम, आप सही कह रहे हो। आशा देवी जी, थैंक यू so much. I want to just, Pranjal, Asha, I want to just end with you because you had written something interesting and very important. What do we learn? Because we keep saying, can we put to rest, why doesn't she just leave? That is a question we all need. Instead of that, let's ask a question to ourselves. Why do we fail to create safe places? Pranjal, Asha, you put out a series of points where you said what I want from you, from everybody that you had confided in when you were stuck in this abusive relationship.
It's just very interesting that when the abuse was happening, I just on the parents' bed, when the abuse was going on, it's not that my parents did not know, like, you know, all the manipulation that was happening before I actually moved in with him. It's not that my parents did not know what was going on, but just the fact that, oh, this guy is somebody who has a PR of Canada and has a good job. So, you know, तुम्हारी ही गलती होगी, तुम कुछ गलत कर रही होगी. And that is why whatever, you know, like whatever these issues are, just like sort them out yourself. And my mother was in the room when he said that you've lived enough with your mother and now just like come live with me. And she had no questions. Like, in fact, I was infuriated, but my mother was just fine with it. Until, you know, everything happened and I came back home and I asked her the same question, like, why did you not have a problem when he said that? Yeah. She had no answers, and she also did not know what to say because, like, she was just like, she did not know, like, what to do. And I had other friends who were constantly asking me to leave him. And I remember from that time, my entire Google history was about how to leave a toxic relationship. So it's...
So you tried, but it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be. Thank you all for joining us. It's not easy to talk to us on a national platform. It's not easy to write about it, but I know you're doing this because you want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. So we thank you for that, for trying to be part of the change. I'm just going to end with the 3 points that Pranjal put out about what she wants from you, from people who she has shared her story with. She says, I want you to know this happened. I want you to believe a survivor. I want you to be a better person and not practice or enable this behavior. So tonight, we're saying, let's put a rest to why doesn't she just leave? Instead, let's ask ourselves, what can we do to help them leave? Why do we fail to create safe places for anyone who confides in us? Thank you for joining us on We the People.